Hello, I'm Belinda Ressler. Welcome to Ethics in Reporting and Child Welfare. The focus of this training is to provide child welfare professionals with the tools needed to assess ethical dilemmas, make sound decisions, and deliver services with integrity to clients. Reporting child abuse is not uncommon in child welfare, but deciding when to report sometimes lands us in the middle of an ethical dilemma. Advocating for children is a professional ethic, and reporting child abuse is a legal requirement. In a culture emphasizing parental rights and family privacy, reporting child abuse can contradict societal norms and values. This training will provide information to social workers on ethical decision-making. Our goals during this mini session will be to, first one, enable participants to develop skills in applying ethics into everyday practice. 2, to gain the tools necessary to explain an ethical decision-making process. 3, enable participants to increase their ability to recognize ethical issues and to apply ethical decision-making frameworks and protocols through enhanced use of critical thinking skills. And the last one is to help participants increase their ability to recognize ethical dilemmas and deal with them appropriately. So as social workers, why do we care? Well, we want to help. Well, I think we want to help. You assume that social workers want to help. That's why they're in it. But we know that we want to do the right thing. We want to be able to sleep well at night. We don't want to lose our license or go to jail. And we don't want to get sued. So do no harm. Well, as social workers and helpers, our main goal is to help clients and do no harm to them. However, sometimes when social workers face ethical challenges with their clients, there may be some harm involved. Sometimes the level of harm to the client must be weighed when making ethical decisions. So let me give you an example. If a client discloses to a social worker that they're having thoughts of wanting to harm themselves or others, depending on the multitude of factors, notifying law enforcement could potentially harm the client. But if law enforcement is not notified, others may be harmed. So then the question becomes, what is the decision with the least amount of harm? Sometimes we're confronted by problems for which there's no positive choices, regardless of the option chosen by the client and or the worker. Some harm will come to one person or another, perhaps even to the client or the social worker. What is the ethical choice in such a situation? The least harm rule suggests choosing the option that will result in the least harm, the least permanent harm, or the most easily reversible harm. Studies report that a key conflict within child welfare is defining, assessing, and intervening in child neglect cases. Therefore, without having an agreed-upon definition and a framework for child neglect, an inconsistency of an agreed-upon definition within the agencies, eventually the families are the ones being affected. So, Family Code 261.001 defines neglect, and here I just list just a few ways. For example, failing to provide a child with food, clothing, or shelter necessary for them to sustain life and to help the child. Another way is for neglect is placing a child in or failing to remove the child from a situation in which the child would be exposed to a substantial risk of sexual conduct harmful to the child. And then, of course, the failure by the person responsible for the child's care, custody, or welfare to permit the child to return to the child's home without arranging for somebody to be there when the child gets home. I think this picture is a good visual for us as social workers to know this is why we do what we do. Ethics, morals, and values. So what are those? Well, ethics derive from values. They guide people on what is good and what is bad. The ethics address what to do or how to apply those beliefs. Values are our own beliefs and feelings, and our ethics are how we apply it, well, how we conduct business. So far we've talked about ethics, morals, and values, and we've discussed do no harm, and we've also discussed the definition of neglect. So how do you think you would respond if I came to you as my supervisor and I told you about my client self-disclosing the fact that she smokes marijuana on a daily basis after she puts the kids to bed? My concern is if the client is impaired and she is faced with an emergency, would she be able to react quickly and provide safety for the kids? And after my client disclosed, she begged me not to report her to the state Child Welfare Board. She knows that I'm required by law to report my suspicions for the safety of the kids, but I don't want to potentially damage our therapeutic relationship, and I feel as though that's the result that would happen when I informed her that I was going to report. But do I need to report? She does it after the kids go to bed, just to relax. And it's not like it's meth or anything, it's pot. So what are your thoughts? Should the social worker be concerned about saving the therapeutic relationship with the client, or do what is ethically responsible and make the report? We know there would not be a breach of confidentiality because the client signed the informed consent and is aware of the do no harm. As mandatory reporters, the Texas Family Code states that anyone who suspects child abuse or neglect must report it immediately. The report may be made to any local state law enforcement agency or the Department of Family and Protective Services. Professionals have 48 hours to make reports of child abuse to the appropriate authorities. If you know the child is in immediate risk of harm, a report should be made immediately. For example, if you're a social worker in a school and you're concerned a child is going home from school and will be abused, you should call the police immediately. You can make reports over the phone or online. The NASW Code of Ethics principles guide us in decision making. For example, our client confidentiality. During the client's assessment, there's a discussion of the limits to the client's confidentiality. In addition, the client signs an informed consent form. The protection of life. Well, this applies to all persons, both the client and the lives of others, and it takes precedence over every other obligation. It guarantees the basic survival needs of individuals and or the society. So the equality and inequality. Well, that suggests that all persons in the same circumstances should be treated in the same way. Persons in equivalent situations have the right to be treated equally. And you have the autonomy and freedom. Well, this principle fosters a person's right to self-determination, the autonomy, and the independence and freedom. The least harm. Well, sometimes we're confronted by problems for which there are no positive choices. Regardless of the option chosen by the client or us as the worker, some harm will come to the person or another, perhaps even the client. The quality of life. Choose the option that promotes better quality of life for all individuals involved. Privacy and confidentiality. Well, we have the duty to protect the privacy of the clients and groups to the greatest extent possible, consistent with laws and the will and agreement of the clients. Confidentiality is not untouchable. There are limitations. Truthfulness and full disclosure. That's exactly what it says. When speaking to clients or others, one should speak the truth and disclose all relevant information. That ends this mini-series of ethics and reporting in child welfare. If you have any questions or you need any more information, please feel free to contact me. I hope this training provided you with some tools or ethical considerations when dealing with the next ethical decision you may need to make.